Okay, please, if you're behind and you're here for this session, please can you come forward? Can we move forward, please? The session on career development for young professionals. Welcome to the session on career development for young professionals. My name is Vera Wanze, and I'm your moderator for this session. Please note the following. Put your phone on silent or vibrate. To introduce our speakers for this session, we have Jimi Tewe and Napoleon Esemudje. Jimi Tewe is the Career Success Catalyst and Chief Executive Officer of Inspiro Consulting. Jimi had a hard-to-find track record in his varied background experience in 2 consulting firms, a non-profit organization, and 2 banks. He is a career success catalyst, a human resource management consultant, an inspirational speaker, a coach, and a nation builder. Napoleon Esemudje is the Chief Human Resources Officer in Fidelity Bank PLC. His career spans over 17 years in banking, cutting across various roles and responsibilities in corporate/commercial banking and human resources management. Napoleon is an associate of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, Nigeria, a certified human resources manager, and a member of the Society of Human Resources Management, SHRM USA. Please join me in welcoming our speakers. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. If you can hear me, if I need to, I will come to you. And so, productions have been done. The way this would work is that I will probably leave the best answers for the questions when they come. But we've got a couple of slides, and where's Jimmy? Okay, and basically after welcoming you guys, I'll hand over to Jimmy. But let me just say that I was once a young person. If I still look young, I imagine. And sometimes when I read somewhere that I've done more than 17 years in banking, I say, who is that person they're talking about? But I started like this, and I've seen a lot of young people start like this as well. And I can tell you that there is a pathway to the top. Let me say this before I pass on to Jimmy. Have you ever wondered, across the world, everywhere, the number of successful people rank at about 5 to 10 or 20% of the population? Everywhere. It's a standard statistic. In Nigeria, the most successful people form about 20% of the population. In other parts of the world, it's the same. The question is, why is that statistic true in our environment? I hope that we'll be able to find some answers to this today. Jimmy? What's that? So, should I run through?
First slide.
First slide. Basically, we've done this.
Oh, you've done that already?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So that we can move on quickly.
Okay.
And I'll give you to do yours.
Okay, great.
And then we'll come back.
Let's appreciate Napoleon, please. Thank you very much. All right, my name is Jimi Tewe, and I'm just going to give a brief introduction about myself. Unlike Napoleon, I'm not on 17 years yet. All right, I'm still trying to gather my experience. But my own experience is not the usual path for most people. I know that in recruitment we say when a person is very unstable, working in several organizations, is not a good recruit. Am I right? Yeah. So I'm one of those bad recruits, okay? All right, that's fine. But I started off my career with a company called Regional Consulting in 2002. I worked there for about 2 years. Then I had this idea, that's part of what we talk about today, that I wanted to help the world and help young people. So I moved into NGO work. I worked with a company called Junior Achievement International. Then right after that, I missed consulting, and I wanted to get back to consulting. So I worked with Accenture for about 2 years and a couple of months. Then I got an opportunity. So these are some of the things that would determine your career, growth. I got an opportunity to be part of a team to work then with UBA in a transformation team, and then eventually we got converted. And so I became a manager then in UBA, and then a senior manager the following year. And I moved to my PhD. I headed recruitment, performance management, organizational development at different times. And then in 2008, I had a dream. I wanted to start my own business, all right? Please be careful, it might be a nightmare, all right? But for me, I think it wasn't bad because it turned out to be a good dream. So 2010, I stepped out, and so right now I run my organization, Inspiro Consulting in Lagos. We do basic HR consultancy, recruitment, learning and development and all that. But over and above that, my passion is around helping people achieve career success. And so I do a lot of public speaking in that regard. We have tools, we have materials for people and all. And that's what I do till today, all right? So that's just a little about me. Now, I'll run through a few slides, just 3 slides, and then Napoleon will take the other part. Then we will take the questions. And I just wanted to, I sat down thinking, because again, talking about career development for young professionals, there's a lot that can be said. And I mean, you don't 1.5 hours is not enough for everything, am I right? Okay, so I just said to myself, all right, based on current, feedback that I get, working with CEOs in a number of instances, working with senior professionals, what are the areas or what are the gaps? And so based on that, there are a few models I'd just like to show very quickly. So the first one, okay, this is a career development model that is basic, because again, there are a lot of people that ended up in HR because they said, I like people. How about people like that? I just like to help people, am I right? And they end up being social enterprise people, actually, working in HR functions, okay? So this is a basic model around, how to develop your career, all right? The first thing to do, of course, is to find the focus, all right? And that requires some level of in-depth self-assessment. I was at, I think, a bank, I won't mention the bank now, and after the session that I had, a manager walked up to me and said, you know what, I've never really thought about what I really want to do in the future. By the way, please understand that usually the path for most people in HR is to end up as HR director, am I right? Okay, so but you have to know whether that's what you want. Or you want to start up your own HR organization, or you want to transit into academia, or you want to, head the business you are in, meaning you cross from HR into the core business. And I've seen that happen successfully for a few people also, all right? So these are some of the things you need to think about, all right? Of course, so interview and your value proposition, what exactly are you giving, all right? Now, the more you grow in your field, the clearer it is your field within the field is. Yeah, what I mean by that is that there's talent management, there are so many areas, compensation and benefits and all that. As you grow, usually you start off in most companies as a generalist, and then eventually you end up as a specialist, okay? So, what's your value proposition? What's your distinctive branding, all right? What exactly, I have HR people, for example, that are very numeric, and so HR metrics is where they have decided to camp around, okay? Then in terms of HR, I found out that the way you present yourself matters a whole lot. Again, there's a way that people can look down at HR as a support function. I'm going to understand what I'm talking about. In fact, they call HR a cost center, am I right? Okay, but there's a way you can actually position yourself, position your function such that it is seen as a great way to add value to the organization. Of course, whether you are working in a company, anywhere you're working, there are opportunities. You need to identify your opportunities, okay? So for example, personally, I remember working at UBA, there was an opportunity to work on a change project, okay, while I was doing my function, and getting into that was what positioned me to get a promotion the following year, all right? Even though by framework, I'm not meant to get that promotion. But again, you're able to do that because you're able to identify opportunities all around. So how do you network? How do you discover opportunities? How do you generate leads? Again, the HR person is not a back-end person any longer. A core person that is involved in the business. And then lastly, how do you, mastering interview, handling objections. These are different things you need to understand as competencies. Now there's another one, and again, all of these are available on the CIPM website. I think it's going to be available there. But these are some areas that I believe as an HR person you should have a grasp of. So for example, industry trends. And I find that many people are so involved in process that they don't understand what is going on in the industry. They don't have a system where they're able to understand what is going on. Because again, the truth about it is that, I mean, we know that most jobs are not advertised, am I right? Yeah. And the more senior you become, the more it should be more of referrals, am I right? But again, if nobody knows you around, okay, then nobody's going to recommend you also. And that way, even though you are the best candidate, nobody knows you are even existing in the first instance, all right? So things from industry, what are career options for a degree? So one of the things I decided, I listened to Dr. Jimi Tewe today. Interestingly, he was my senior in secondary school, so when I saw him, I remembered him, and I said to myself, this guy is so well-read, I felt like I didn't go to school, all right? And so, but I've been thinking about that, and that gave me some foil in that regard. So, but what do I study? People say, oh, I want to do a master's in HR. Is that the best thing you should do? All right, so you need to be able to understand also, I mean, you're going to get information, the others are basics, and you should know them. Now, this slide I want to talk about is something I came across, 16 behaviors of executive presence. I have a particular client, one of our strongest clients, and she says that one problem I've always had when I met her was that my people lack executive presence. All right, and that's what maybe gives HR space in the boardroom. It's what will give you space in the commercial center. I mean, as a HR business partner, for example, all right, there is something around executive presence, and there are competencies around it, all right. Now, basic, first and foremost, is self-development, okay? I'm happy you're here. Maybe if there are people here, maybe the organization sent them here, and that's great, but beyond that, what are you doing to work on yourself, to improve yourself? I believe in systems, all right? So if you do an activity every quarter, for example, to work on yourself, then you probably get a lot more progress than other people that do it intermittently. Business intelligence is something that is growing on right now. Most organizations are actually creating business intelligence units, but from a HR point of view, do you have the metrics? Do you understand how do you make decisions? Based on what are you making decisions as an HR person, all right? So that's business intelligence. I mean, HR, there's some things you need to come up. Ideas. I worked closely with the head of HR then, and one thing I noticed that the number of the ideas he had that he got that provided solutions were not found in a textbook. I would know that the work we do, there's no textbook solution for some of those things. But you have to take a risk. Are we together? All right, so are you willing to take that? And there are competencies under every one of them. Interpersonal relationships, both within your organization and then outside, I mean, within your industry, then even outside your industry, it's important that you consistently develop and work on that. And then performance improvement, how do you work and improve your performance? So these are all competencies. I'm going to hold on now, and I'm going to just let Napoleon take over, and then we'll now take questions right after. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jimi. Now, let's think about this for a second. There's this old saying, some people are born great, some people achieve greatness, and some have greatness, what? Thrust upon them. Now, I want you to rephrase that, okay? Some people are born into a career, all right? Some people seek and achieve a great career, and some people also have careers thrust upon them. And let me assure you of one thing. In that category, somebody here will find yourself or yourselves in any of these categories. In fact, most of us find out that we are thrust into something. Few of us actually seek those things, and even fewer of us are born into the kind of careers that we're dreaming of. But this is where I like us to start, and I like to keep this as simple as possible, because a career is not something that is technical. It's not something that is idealistic. Career is your life. Your life is your career. I want you to take that point and just flow with it, that the career is your life. Sometimes you think about it that I've been born for this. First point is, what is that thing that you value? What are the things that you believe in? What are those things that you believe in? Values are what changes everything. That's where you start from. Now, some of us might think that we don't have any values, but you do have values. You may not have written it down, but some people can never get to the office on time. Huh? You know that thing called African time? Some of us are born with African time inside. So our clock, our inner clock is always running late. That's your value. So if you are talking about working somewhere where punctuality is required, you're going to struggle. What are your values? I need you guys to think about that. What do you believe in? I used to tell a joke to my colleagues in the office. I said, you see those CDs that those guys hawk on the street? I said, how many of you have bought them? Everybody raises his hand. How many of you think that buying those CDs is a crime? No, how can it be a crime? I paid for it. I said, do you know that that is like buying a stolen property? I said, I can't. It's not stolen in any way because I bought it from somebody. Meanwhile, it was pirated. So is your value strong enough for you to resist what is obviously a crime, but because everybody thinks it's normal, so we do it? So you need to agree on value. And then when you have your values, you then set the boundaries around it. And then you must know your strength, because your strength will determine. You know, when we talk about people being born great, the being born great really is talking about what strength that you were born with. It's a popular saying in Nigeria and across the world that talent is scarce. In HR, we talk about war for talent all the time. All right? And so part of my job is that I have to go through CVs and everything. And sometimes, you know, in a year, we sometimes go over 10,000 CVs in Nigeria, in my office. And it's tough. And you know, there are millions of CVs in Nigeria flying around. But if you have the chance of speaking to people one-on-one, because we can't do that, you know, easily, but if you do have a chance, and you probe deep enough, you find that everybody has got what? A talent. But most people don't recognize that they have talent. And most people, even worse, are scared of the talent that they have. But that's a story for another day. How do you know that you've got talent? What do you enjoy doing? In Nigeria of today, the young people are actually charting a new course for everybody. I was telling a colleague earlier today that, you know, when we were growing up, most of us, oh, I want to go to school, I want to get a degree in engineering, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a medical doctor. Nothing wrong with that, absolutely. And as a parent, I can also say that I want my child to be a what? A doctor. But you'll find that the thing that you enjoy doing the most, that you would excel in, if you invest yourself in it. There's an old saying, if you don't do what you love, then you must love what you do. All right? So in finding that balance, what you find is that some people find themselves in certain kind of careers, and then they say to themselves, you know, I don't like this career, I can't work here, I'm not enjoying the job. So what do? They switch off. And they switch off, they don't do well, and they fail. And meanwhile, they've not tuned themselves to what they love, because maybe what they love is not something that they think would give them enough what? Money. Okay? So, when I work with colleagues in the organization, I'm looking for somebody that is better than the next person. You must know what you are better than any other person has. You must know. If you don't know, you have a problem. So I like you guys to think about it. Even whether you have a job or you don't have a job, always think at the back of your mind, what am I actually good at? Because when you go for that interview, when you're seeking a career path, when you want to think about how to become that great person, it has to be what you are good at. And everybody's good at something. Finding that something may be a little difficult, but you can find it, okay? I use that example of a duck or a dove. Now, you know, the duck, if you bring a duck and say what? Come and run, you know, or come and fly, what will happen to the duck? It will come what? Last. Can't even fly properly. But if you put that duck in the water, it's innate in the duck to swim. Alright? One of my, you know, preferred videos is actually seeing a duck go underwater. I don't know if you guys have seen the duck go underwater. It's surreal that it's happening. A duck is engineered to swim. What are you engineered to do? You have to think about this. Some people are actually sitting here and they've been engineered to do a particular thing, but they don't know. And that is the tragedy of our aspirations. And that is where we lose ultimately, not just as a society or as individuals, but as a country. But hopefully, I'm seeing a different generation of people actually saying, this is what I'm engineered to do, and then they actually pursue it. When we run inductions in Fidelity Bank where I work, one of the requirements is that every day you must read the newspaper. And it's not just Business Day or any of the Financial Times or anything like that. Just read the current newspaper. Get a magazine and read. One of our tragedy again and most young people suffer from this, even though information now is at our fingertips. You know, now you have information, in fact, there's information overload, all right? But a lot of people still don't read what they need to. So you want to be, let's take HR, right? You want to be a very good HR professional. You want to be a practitioner. How many HR books have you read? How many HR magazines have you read? How many HR-related materials have you read? What do you know about HR beyond, I like helping people. I'm good with people. I'm a people person. You know, so reading is part of, there's an old saying the colleague used to say, the person who doesn't read, thank you, it's not better than the guy who cannot read. As a matter of fact, you are worse off. Because the guy who cannot read at least has some native intelligence. And you're just degrading. Alright? So reading is essential because everything that is happening across the world is going to affect you. And when they say the world is a global village today, it's not just a saying, it's the reality that everything that is happening in the world, one way or the other, affects us. I'm in banking, so it affects us very quickly. Alright? But believe me, every other thing comes down to the basics and it affects you. So you need to know what's going on and you need to know what to do about it. Anticipate. One of my favorite things is chess. Alright? You know what chess does? Chess helps you to think about step 1, move 2, move 3, move 4. So you anticipate what's going to happen next. What's the next plan going to do? If I make this move, what's going to happen? I've always thought of writing a book on consequences. Every choice you make, and believe me, everything you do is a choice. Now you've come here today, you made the choice. Your parents may have told you, you must go to school. But you actually made the choice to do what? To go to that school. Because you could have gone, they could have dropped you at the gate of the school, and you would take off. Right? And you'll be forced to sit in class and you refuse to study. So ultimately the choice is yours. Good deeds, bad deeds, you make that choice. So I want everybody to first of all take the responsibility of saying that it is my decision. It's a popular saying in Nigeria that when something happens to you, you go and check what's happening in your village, right? When we're young, we say there's a satellite that's bearing down on you. No satellite is bearing down on you. Alright? This choice that you've made has led to this consequence. And you must understand that there is always consequence. Alright? Now, think about this. Where are you now? Where are you going? How do you get there? These are difficult questions, I have to admit, because some of them don't have answers. And so I went to somebody one day and said, you know, sometimes I don't have answers for these questions. And the guy said, no, the most important thing for you to do is to ask the questions. Just ask the questions. And what we do all the time, and I encourage you to do this, get a notebook, write all the questions down. Write 1,000 questions down. As long as you've written those questions down, answers will come. One day you wake up, answers will come. But at least you have the question that you want to ask. And then you need to know how to get to where you are going. Another popular Nigerian issue is this. We all like saying that there's a problem here. Alright? We like to, I use the example, somebody walks in and say, you know what, this light is dim. You know what, the roof is falling down. We are what we call problem spotters. We see problems a lot. But how many of us are solution providers? How many of us are innately designed to actually want to solve problems? The guys who get the jobs, the guys who succeed in whatever career that they choose, whether it's Steve Jobs, whether it's, they talked about Jeff of Amazon today, are the people who solve problems. If you solve problems, any problem that you solve, and when you prepare that CV, just put all the solutions that you've provided. When I look at the CV, and I see solutions, I call the person. Instinctively, I want to know this guy. I want to know how did you manage to solve this problem. People are looking for who to solve problems. All right? There are more than 7 billion people in the world. How many problems do you think each person has? Do the arithmetic. All right? So there are billions of problems, and we're looking for people to solve them. And I used to say this, if you solve problems very well, there's nowhere you will hide. The world will come and look for you. Can you imagine if, and truly if, not the shenanigans that some people play here, if you wake up tomorrow with a cure for HIV, and it's validated that it's actually the cure for HIV, there will be a maker of millions of people coming to your doorstep. It happens all the time. But you have to think about how to solve a problem. Most of us don't think about how to solve problems. Most of us like to point out the problem. So, think about it. How many problems have you solved today? This is how you build a career. So when I say career is your life, it's not abstract. It's not in the air. It's in you every day. All right? I'll talk about this. If you have an idea, if you believe in the idea and you're willing to do what it takes to achieve that idea. You know, when I talk about talent being there, but people are scared to achieve their talent, it's because sometimes talent takes a long time before it can materialize. Okay? There's a word that Obama used, that there's an arc of justice that travels for a distance, but someday it will come to fruition. Alright? That's the same thing with talent. Sometimes your talent may not even take you where you want to go. But because you enjoy it, because you know that it's a good idea, you will drive it. Okay? Now, one of the challenges that I know a lot of people who are looking for a job talk about is you don't have experience, you don't have experience, you don't have experience. So when you're preparing that CV, you say, you know what, I don't even have experience, I won't qualify. Wrong. There's a good way to get experience. There's an easy way to get experience. It's called what?
Volunteering.
It's the best way to get experience these days. You know why it's good? It's cheap, at least to the employer. Right? Okay? So you don't have to do anything. They don't have to pay you. Boldly, if you don't have a job and you're looking for a job, go to an organization tomorrow where you know that you've got some skills and some solutions to offer. And you say, you know what? I'm willing to work for free for the next 5 months. I know it's tough. I know. But that is a step of faith. And that's a step of boldness. And that's a step of courage. Alright? But maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you just want to volunteer in your neighborhood. Maybe you just want to volunteer, somewhere not too far off. You can do it. And the more you volunteer, the more you learn. You learn and you gather the experience that you need to put in your savings. I'm always interested when I see people saving and I think, I did this and I did that and I did this. My very first volunteer experience, it changed my life. I took it on place. I've been working for a while, but I had the opportunity to volunteer, to go out there. I think it was called Homeless Christmas or something like that. Basically what it was on a Christmas Eve like that, we were supposed to prepare somewhere where homeless people would stay and have a good Christmas. But it was back-breaking work. Because we had to clear a big yard, we had to clean up the place, we had to set people up, we had to get materials and beddings and all that. But you know what? There were doctors volunteering. There were lawyers volunteering. There were ordinary people volunteering, policemen volunteering. We don't do much of volunteering now, but I'm seeing a group of people also getting into it. You can come and form friendship with a group of people and you say, well, I want to volunteer to do this. I want to speak to young people. Something like Jimmy said, your experiences can change somebody's life. But when you do that, you get the experience. And remember, is it the journey that you want? Or is it the prize? I think a lot of people just want the prize. But where is the prize? It's at the end of what? The real prize, not the prize that is here today and gone tomorrow, right? The real, long-lasting, sustainable prize is at the end of the journey. Enjoy the journey. And that's what volunteering helps you to do. All right? I think Jimmy has talked about this, your branding. So when you see people the way they are, when they look so sad, when they look so lost, they are lost. Alright? Some of the most successful people are the can-do people. They are the people that have, when they see the glass, they say, this glass is half full, not half empty. So they have faith in their own future, that they will do well. You have to believe that you will do well. If you don't believe that you would. Put it rightly. You know, there's the old icon saying that if you say you can't, you can't. If you say you can, you can. It is true. It happens all the time. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that if you put yourself down, you will go down. All right? So you don't want to, your verbal, your body language, your action, how you carry yourself, be excited. All right? And I think we've done all this. Let's see. All right, so that's about it. That's the slide that I've got for you.
How do you think you want to run it? Do you want to write it out or you want to just signify it? Signify is fine. What about the back? Okay, just signify, all right. Okay, so great. We'll start off with these questions and we'll take it from there. You have passion for two careers or two career paths and you are good at both. How do you determine which to go forward with in life? All right? So I'll give you an example. Can I use your example?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, great. Okay, so he's head of HR for a bank, right? But he loves to write, okay? Now, he's not written a lot, you know, maybe to a Chino Achebe level. I'm sure at that level we will just forget banking and move on. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, yeah? So he's not there yet. So his current opportunity is what he can work with. You always work with the opportunity you have at hand at that point in time, all right? And so what I ask people to do, for example, some people say to me that I'm multi-talented. I have several abilities, okay? So I say to them, what opportunity do you have at the moment that you can utilize? Now, one thing you can do is, I find that some people are a bit limited in the sense that they're not able to multitask. So for example, I do public speaking, but I also do HR. So when I was working in the bank, even though it was pretty challenging, I used to leave my laptop at work on Friday, okay? And pick it up on Monday. So Saturday and Sunday, I would travel to Akure to go and speak at the campus because at that time, that was the only place they could listen to me, all right? Or NYC place. Are we together? Yes. All right, so I did that for a period of time and then somebody invited me somewhere, began to grow until the probability of it sustaining my future looked bright. Then I could now take that plunge. Are we together? All right, so that's what you need to do. So work with the opportunities. Now, even if you're not, you don't have the right opportunity to step into it right now, the opportunity you have is the opportunity of development. Do you get my point? So what can you do to keep developing yourself? So for example now, I don't know what he's done in that regard, but he can decide and say, okay, I want to take a course in writing. I can afford it at the level that I am, okay? And maybe once open a blog, I can afford to open a blog, am I right? He keeps doing that consistently. After a while, he has a book, he publishes it. I've written 4 books. The first book I wrote, I gave out most of it free. Because it's foolhardy to think that your first book you will be a millionaire. Now it will cross your mind, but it's a lie, all right? Okay, that's the truth about it, right? So usually people don't know you. So what happens is that when you now maybe write your 10th book and then it's so awesome, then you reprint your first book and you make money. That's how it works. All right? So what can you begin to do right now? Work on that, and then now allocate time to that other area, because sometimes if you don't feed it, it will die. Are we together? All right, that's important. Now within an organization, so for instance, someone says, oh, that I want to do performance management and I want to do compensation and all that. I ask them, what is the company most focused on at that point in time? If the company is saying that we're right now looking at staff performance, you want to be where the company is at.
Okay, so self-esteem and all that. Now, it's all good to have two, career choice. In fact, if you have that option, you are blessed, right? If you've dealt with the base, you've dealt with your bare needs, then you can begin to now think of, oh, this would better actualize my dreams and my esteem and all the other things. Okay? But if you've not dealt with that base, I think the path is a bit clearer. Well, what kind of career will cover that base? All right? So once you have that option, it's easy to decide. Okay? And then, of course, the things that Jimmy had already talked about. Ultimately, please, that old saying about bird in hand is worth two in the bush. What I always say, I'm totally in line with what Jimmy had said, whatever opportunity that you have already, excel in it. Or just do your best. If you want to move to another, career path, move. But know that wherever you go to, you must do your best. You must make a mark. All right? So I'll take the next question. And he came and said, you said we should volunteer once in a while. Okay. Well, that's what is written here. There are people who don't have means of transporting themselves. What do you advise in this case? All right? I can relate with that. I have a bit of a story about a guy. He was into comedy, comedian. You know how successful Nigerian comedians are now? Yeah. How many of you know how they started? I have, in my little life career, I've seen two guys who have started from grass. They are household names in Nigeria now. I don't even think they still know me. I sometimes imagine that if I see this guy and I stretch my hand, would you still recognize me? But I knew these guys when they couldn't pay their school fees. I knew the guy, one of the guys, when he would come to my bank to offer his service for free. Yeah. Now, how did he get there? I can't say I know. But I saw him there. And we laughed our heads off. And that's how it started. Yeah. So from paying him less than 0, we moved up to 5,000. And we moved up to 15,000. And we moved up to 50,000. Until we can't afford him anymore. All right? So, don't worry about where to go. There are so many places to volunteer. So, in this Nigeria, in Lagos, in Abuja, just go across your street. I'm sure you will see somewhere to volunteer.
Can you volunteer in church? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. That's a good place to start.
Will you put it on your CV?
It depends on what you are volunteering for. You remember what I said? Now, when you're going to volunteer, you're not going to volunteer of sitting down. You're going to volunteer of adding value and solving what? Problems. Once you solve problems are almost, you could say they are different, but problems are problems, and they look alike, ultimately. All right? I know of people as well, what did they volunteer to do in the church? How to play something. They mostly start as young people, one day they branch off and they are now superstars, right? Yeah. I know of the guys who start by leading Sunday school classes, okay? In that class, after they've tutored the children of some people, someday somebody calls somebody and says, my son's life has changed because of... You never know where it's going to happen. You just have to do it. When I talk about the leap of faith, that's what it is. But if you don't do it, if you sit down at home and say, I'm waiting for that job in Chevron, in Shell, in NNPC, you will wait to... All right. Okay, you got the next one? Yeah. You want to add something? Okay. How can you have a successful career in the public sector when advancement is all about who you know, rather than what you can deliver, right? I think that's what's written here. Well, I don't work in the public sector, and I know that the general perception is that the public sector is tough. Let me put it that for, let me just put it mildly. Even sitting around here today, even listening to some of the presenters, it's been tales of woe, right? But hey, let me give my own experience. I didn't work in the public sector, but before I got my job, I also had this sense that you need to know somebody to get a job. It was just a general thing that, who do you know? Who do you know? When I finished my NYSC, I was thinking, who do I know in NNPC? And who do I know here? But I saw an ad in the newspaper. I applied to the newspaper. I remember the day vividly, all right? It was December 29th, all right? I applied. I got called up to come and write the test. I won't tell you the year. If you do the arithmetic, you'll find out. I applied, came to write the test, followed through to the interview. I got the job. These things happen, gentlemen and ladies. I respond to CVs. I get unsolicited, as we call it, unsolicited CVs. Sometimes I'm very busy, so I move it to somebody, and sometimes I actually do scroll through and I think, wow, this looks like a good CV. Please call this fellow. It happens, and it continues to happen. Don't take that defeatist attitude that it's not going to work. Do your part, right? Do your part and leave the rest to God. And it is true that the public sector is tough, but every now and then there are ads in the newspapers, there are ads online, there are ads somewhere. Do your bit. Prepare yourself for the opportunity when it comes. Because you know that thing they said about luck. It's when opportunity meets. Opportunities are coming every day. Look, there are jobs in this country as I'm speaking to you. If you go online now, just whether it's LinkedIn or any of the other, there are jobs. It's just that people are not prepared for those roles. If you prepare and you are ready, when the opportunity comes, I get you get it. I have my present job, but the pressure on the job is actually making me consider resignation. I fail you. I want to know how to manage it alongside the pressure and state as I'm just starting a family. This is a female. Please, I really share your... I work in a bank, right? And you guys know the stories about banks. Fidelity is actually a lot better than most, but the pressure in any private concern is actually quite heavy. And I understand from listening to you that the public sector is also increasingly tough. So pressure is always going to be there. For our female colleagues, I've had to sit down every now and then and say, what kind of support do you have? What kind of support do you have? Because, hey, let's not deceive ourselves, okay? There's this old saying that you can have it all right? But there's also the other side that says you can't have it all right? A successful job, if you want to be a very successful person, you will have to invest yourself in, all right? You know, there's a portion of the Bible that says God is a jealous God, right? There's also the jealous job. He wants to take everything, your time, your energy, your resource. He doesn't want you to spend any time for your family. So every lady, every family lady, I should put it that way, needs some level of support. Now, typically the support should also come from home. If you have a spouse that can give you that kind of support, or family member that can give you that kind of support, if that support is not there, you have to also assess yourself and say to yourself, do I want to continue along this path? But don't take that decision in isolation of your reality. All right? You must take a very well-informed decision. Okay? Because if you leave that pressure of work, you don't want to go to meeting the pressure of needs. The pressure of needs is worse than the pressure of work. I guarantee it. Because what will happen ultimately is that suddenly you find out that you are homeless. And that's the worst pressure of all. Okay? But the other thing to do is also to go meet your supervisor or your HR manager. A problem shared is a problem half solved. You need to speak to somebody in the environment, somebody who sees you. And again, let me add this bit. If you're under pressure at work, and you are a highly valued staff, and you know you're not going to be a highly valued staff except you are contributing, right? Yeah. Except you are delivering and you're solving problems. The organization, if they want to keep you, if they value you, they will find a way to make your job less hellish. I promise you that. You know why? I tell everybody, no supervisor wants to lose a good hand. You know why? That hand is the hand of the supervisor. It's like the supervisor cutting off his own hand. Doesn't want it. So he will find a way to provide that balance. But if you are not contributing, if you are not adding value, if you are not providing solutions, and you are complaining about the pressure, you have to go somewhere else. Okay. Is there any other? Okay, yeah. Yes.
Okay, let me take this one.
Go ahead.
All right, just a thought that I had that might help somebody. There's something I learned somewhere. Having on your phone, the number of bars is normally 4, am I right? Okay, so let's make an assumption and say that the bars represent the degree to which you are known in your industry. Can you answer this question? How many bars do you have? answer that question, all right? It's important you know, all right, because that really is an idea of your career attraction index, all right? Which basically will determine whether you're going to move forward, whether people are going to call you, whether you're going to get a lot of opportunities, okay? I want to just mention that, by the way. Is it just a few questions? Is it right to volunteer in a career or job that you do not have passion for because you want to gain experience? No, I think the qualifier is relevant experience, am I right? Yeah. So what you do is, for example, I find people that, I met somebody here that is here that she says she's an admin, but she's even done CIPM, she wants to move into HR. So what you do is that you go and volunteer in the HR department. That's what you do. So, I mean, I think there's somebody that asked me and says, can I volunteer in your company on a weekend basis? It's asking me, right? That's the question, right? So I'll ask you, all right, sure, fine, but is it relevant to what you want to do? That's very important, because again, when you take an experience to HR and say, okay, there's an opportunity I'd like to apply, it has to be relevant to the position that you have in that regard, okay? So please, the qualifier is relevant experience, and for the person asking me whether they can volunteer, please see me after so I can find out if it's relevant or not, okay? Fine. I like this question, or two questions. As a recruitment consultant, you obviously have seen and scrutinized several CVs and probably have interviewed some of the owners of these CVs. Can you infer that the components of these CVs are actually the real attributes of the interviewee or candidate? The answer is no. All right? The truth about it is this, that again, a lot of people are getting skilled now. In fact, my company, we do CV services. So we take because some people don't understand how to present themselves. They actually have content, right? But they don't know how to present themselves. Now we tell people that we will not present you in a light that you are not. When you sign up with us, we don't do that, okay? But just to present what you are, so that you look more attractive, there are some keywords. So for example, right now, most software use keywords to search for relevant candidates, okay? So if your CV doesn't have those keywords, even though you're the best person, you will not be identified, all right? So what we say is that, again, the CV is the sorting process, and then after that, there are other things. So you have to get ready for tests and assessment centers. I'm sure most of us are familiar, and most companies right now are really focusing on how to identify the right candidate, and so they're going a lot deeper into assessment centers and other ways to identify whether this person is a match for the role that they're resourcing for, okay? So you must do your homework before you actually show up at the interview. One more question here. Most employers and recruiters say most Nigerian graduates are not employable. Do you agree? Yes. You do? That means you've gone through, maybe you've had some fun experience. That's fine, all right? If this is true, how did we get into that mess? I'll ask Napoleon because he's older than I am. All right, I'm just joking. And what do you think are the palliatives to put in place to make the situation? Yeah, you mentioned it again. I like to give an analogy that if you have a factory that produces plates, all right, and 2 out of the plates are cracked every time you produce, okay? It might be the plates that have a problem. When 8 are cracking, it's the system that is producing them. Yeah. And think about it, most of us are testimonies that in spite of the school we went to, we are here where we are today. Am I right? I mean, because think about it, we didn't really get the best education that we could have gotten, am I right? Yeah, now it's gotten worse. And so those graduates are coming out, and lecturers in some schools and all that are actually more focused on the remuneration more than the education. Is that okay? And so you have people that pay. I know people that people pay for first class today. First, because some schools you go to, you get the first class and you pay. So you have to, that's why recruitment is a lot of work now, okay? So the truth about it is this, that what are the palliatives and what are the things you need to do? Particularly if you're going to be recruiting people in organizations, I think that companies need to create programs like internship programs, for example. So we have an internship program, make it a bit competitive. While they're in school, if it's going to be entry level, for example, let them, jostle for the opportunity. The best ones, give them the opportunity, observe them, and those that, you believe that would, probably align to the organization, you can find a way to retain them on a long-term basis, okay? Again, I think companies need to participate in other programs that are developmental. So, for example, there are companies out there that have graduates. Now, when you look at their process of how they treat the graduates, so they take them through I know some companies that do 6-week programs, okay, like employability skills and all that. You check the quality of that program. You can partner with those organizations such that your own breed of people, you can pick the best out of those people, all right? Alternatively, you grow the people yourself, okay? So have a system where you go to school, like a number of us and all that, we saw KPMG come to campuses, am I right? You go to the schools, you do the tests, you identify them, you do NYC. Those are the gaps that we have. From the government perspective, I'm sure that's a lot bigger than what we can discuss here and all that, but there's a lot, that's an area I'm very passionate about, and I was quite happy when I saw the survey. And please, if you don't fill the survey, please fill it and return it before you go today, because we do need, there's a huge problem. But again, my own solution, or basically the way I look at it, is that the problem is that, again, it's the way we're treating graduates. Some graduates should not have gone to university. They shouldn't have graduated. They should have gone to a college of education, polytechnic. The problem right now is that we have university, polytechnic, college of technology or education. Am I right? Yeah. That's the problem. Now imagine if going to one of those colleges of education was the same as going, you would be a good teacher. Am I right? Yeah. So those are the things. So we need to begin to think about people that have, in terms of, the theory of multiple intelligences and all that, people that are kinesthetic. So basically they can run, they can do those kind of things and all that. You put them in the class to do further maths, they will fail. So everybody had to go to school. But what kind of school? So today we don't have career centers in schools. That's a big problem, a huge gap that the number of us are trying to address and all that. So these are some of the things that can be done in that regard. All right, Napoleon?
Yeah. So I have a question.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Yeah. I think I'll be okay without the mic.
No, I'm not sure they can hear you. Can you hear her back?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Put it to your mouth.
First of all, I'm a product of fashion. I don't work in a HR department. Yeah. I'm not part of the HR team in my department, but my passion for HR is what brought me here. So, talking about volunteering, if you say you should volunteer, like, well, some organization, let me not say my organization, some organization will not give you the opportunity to volunteer.
Sure.
Yeah, because let's assume that I want to volunteer in my department, in my organization. How will I go about it?
Okay.
And then, yes, I want a career in human resource. I want a career in human resource. Well, I'm waiting for the opportunity. But sometimes, like the lady that just that said something about pressure. Sometimes I am at the edge of saying I want to stay and I want to resign because of the pressure, and I'm not doing what I really like, because what I really like is HR, human resource. So how will I go about it? And maybe you found yourself that you've written and then no response, and you're just waiting, but you're just doing everything possible to just move with your passion.
All right, thank you very much for that. I think there are different dimensions to it, but one of the ways to get a volunteer opportunity is to leverage relationships. Again, the truth about it is this, that. Now think about two things. One is relationship, right? You need to find people that you can relate with and let them know, because sometimes the day they need a volunteer, they just ask, who do you know that can do this? If they don't remember you, then the opportunity passes you. All right, so if you want to work in HR, all of them must be your friend, as best as you can, all right? So you'll find an opportunity. The other thing that is there also in terms of volunteering is also the fact that I think that people need to be a bit don't target, let's look beyond the organization now. You want to work in HR. Now this is the mistake people make. They go to MTN to volunteer. MTN is a publicly quoted company that will not take volunteers. An internship program is the best they can do, right, for a specified number of people. Now think about it, the statistics in Nigeria show that we have about 75% or more that are SMEs, am I right? So you can actually, maybe you don't go for the S or the micros, then go for the M, the medium scale. Now they don't have, I can tell you most of them don't have a recruitment process. They don't have any policy, a number of them, but they have big money. And they have big problems too. So you need to find out how to work with those companies. Now where they lack structure, you have opportunity. And you can actually go and now when you work with those ones, that experience, you now take it to the structured companies and say, I have this experience.
But where is the time now? Because obviously...
Your weekends. After work, now, you have to find the one that works with you. I don't know your work schedule and all that, but again, find what works with you. So for example, for me, weekends was what enabled me to do. I mean, banking, I remember one day I wanted to look for a house. I was at the gate of the estate and my boss came and said, come here. I just did as if I was in the next room. I was speeding back to the office. Reality, that's the thing. So for weekends, he has to beg me before he can actually demand in that regard. So find out what works for you. And now, I think that people can volunteer across departments. Do that. I gave you an example, right? So I worked at UBA, there was a change management program during my strategy and all that. I volunteered, it took a lot more of my time, that's the truth about it. So sometimes I would close 10 p.m., 11 p.m., be in the office for a 6 a.m. meeting and all that. But I knew what I was looking for. By the way, you are the driver of your career. Nobody is responsible for your career. If you're in this place, for example, and you don't have a 5-year goal for your career, you're going to land somewhere. It might just not be the place you want to get to. Now, I find out that if you have it, will it go according to that plan? Not necessarily. That's the truth about it, because you don't know the kind of opportunity that will come along the way. But usually, if you understand how pilots fly, pilots have a flight plan, but most of what they do is correction. That's what you do. All right? In fact, 70% of a pilot's job is to correct the plane on the path that he has actually planned to go on. All right? So what exactly? That would define your PDP, your personal development plan. I'm in chartered by this time, I must do this course and all that. I mean, those are the kind of things you need to do, because today, the competition is a lot. I'll tell you something that's going to happen. Right now, from all indications, I think it was last week or so, France and French companies, 50 of them came to Lagos State to say they want it now. Foreign companies are coming. You know who they're going to hire? Or who they will think about first? Nigerians in diaspora. That's what they're going to initially want to. Now, you are in a better position where that is concerned. But if you don't have, for example, the GPHR or some other thing, then even though you are qualified, you will not come on the radar in that regard. So I want to give you free advice. Go and update your LinkedIn profile. Most of them will go to LinkedIn, all right? And go there and connect deliberately. Don't just give it and just put it somewhere and just leave it. No, I'm telling you, I do recruitment and all that. One of the first places, if our companies tell us that, do you do LinkedIn search? We do. So you must become a whole lot active in that regard, okay? Meetings like this, network, get cards. You just don't know who's going to call you one day. I'm telling you, it's the way business grows, it's the way your career grows also in that regard, all right? Napoleon.
Thank you very much. Just to add to what he said about volunteering, I think there's another word for volunteering. You know what it is? Sacrifice. That's the second word for volunteering. Okay, so I understand where you're coming from. The other trick, you don't have to volunteer in person, all right? You have email in the office, right? There's an idea that you think will change HR for the better. Send it. You think, one of the popular things that we used to do then is, if you think that they're looking for someone to do something in your area, you represent HR. HR is not everywhere, no matter how much you try, all right? So we need people, point men, to help us drive little bits. There are always opportunities. You don't have to go into the HR department to do it, right? So you can do it. My take, and I need to say this because I know the school system is failing us, right? Nigerians are smart people, extremely smart people. And I say this with all sense of seriousness. There are few schools internationally that Nigerians from these same universities go to that they don't come out as stars. So I'm not worried whether Nigerians are smart people. It's just true that when they graduate, they don't have some of those basic skills, writing skills, maybe public or presentation skills, maybe technology skills, although that's changing. Because by the time I finished, I was still looking at the computer from a distance, all right? But today, I think everybody can probably use a computer. So things are getting better in certain areas, but the school system certainly needs to be looked at. That's why most organizations, including mine, will run an elaborate training program for everybody that joins us through an induction. So we drill you again, through that process, business, writing skills and all that. So, but I think Nigerians are skilled. I think for everybody, and the reason why I keep stressing that you must put your best foot forward is for you to remember the statistics. There are about, 170 million Nigerians, right? If you knock off people from maybe 50 years and above, it probably comes down to about 120 or 30 million Nigerians. Okay? If you knock off people that are 15 years and below, you probably then have what? Maybe another 70 million Nigerians. Do you know how many people have jobs in Nigeria now? The National Bureau of Statistics says 27% unemployment level. The actual number of people that have jobs is less than, in my opinion, former jobs, less than 3 million people. Now, 3 million out of maybe 50 or 60 million. So there are a lot of people scrounging and scratching and pulling and fighting for the available spaces that are there. So you need to put your foot in as quickly as you can, whether it's through CV, whether it's through volunteering. You need to get a share of this cake. Not the national cake now. But you need to find your way to get in. And the way to get in is to put your best foot forward. I keep saying that because you won't have a second chance to make a first impression. All right? So just to note that. Now, somebody wrote me an exam question here. So what are the implications to the organization's mandate?
No, the question starts.
Oh, it starts at the back?
Yes.
So, this guy has a question and said, discuss. An organization did deployment, posted officers from admin department /HRM to operations department /unit, and brought those from operations department and unit to head admin, HRM, etc. What are the implications to the organizational mandate? 1. 2. What are the implications to succession planning, career development, and individual officers, etc.? Oh yeah, where is my desk and table? That's a typical exam question. But let me explain why organizations do this, because every organization worth its salt will rotate people. That's what it's called, job rotation. Now, job rotation does one thing for the organization, to enrich the pool of resources that the organization has. If I have 1, 2, 3 people who I know are good, but this guy is in HR, this guy is in finance, this guy is in marketing, for instance, all right? What I also want to do is to make sure that if this guy leaves, I have somebody that can step in immediately without me having to go out to recruit. That's one option. Recruiting is one option. But if I know that this guy is very good, I like to be able to rotate. The HR speak is job enrichment. That once we rotate people around, their jobs experience is enriched. They have multiple skills and they can do, wear multiple hats. All right? So that's one reason why they do that. So there's nothing inherently wrong in doing that. But the other side of it is that when you do that, those people must be then prepared and trained for the role. Of course, you then have to go for training and all that. And there's the profiling of the staff beforehand. All right? So you don't just send somebody who has no clue to a certain role. Some of these roles are done at 2 levels. At the very junior level and at the senior level. Senior level is mostly leadership. All right? Provide the leadership experience. Some of you probably saw the screening that went on yesterday and the day before. Some of them don't know their portfolio up to this point. But you saw the range of questions that were being asked. So the range of questions went from left to right to center, and you were supposed to show a depth of understanding. If you say you worked in an organization for 10 years, and all your experience is narrowed to only one area, it's a problem for your career. All right, so that moving is good for the organization, and it's good for you. Okay? Now, what are the implications for succession planning? Succession planning for the organization is that there's always a ready pool of successors, so to speak. All right? Somebody that can easily step into that role and the organization would do. In HR, we call it key man risk. You want to avoid a key man risk. Say, this guy is so special to me. Okay? I can't afford to lose him. One day you will lose him. And when you lose him, does the organization die? No, so you need to make sure that the organization will continue as a going concern. Okay? And the career development of the individual officers, this is what I have explained about job enrichment. I encourage you. Now, let me give you a bit of background for me. I started my career in sales. All right? I moved from sales, basically commercial banking, to corporate banking. Corporate banking, you know what I'm talking about. From corporate banking, I moved down again to what we call TQM then. Okay? So I ran TQM for a while, and then I moved back to corporate finance. I did corporate finance for a while before I landed in HR. And even in HR, I didn't stay somewhere. I started in HR operations. I stayed in HR operations for a while, and then moved to learning and development. I was in learning and development for a while, came to HR organizational development. Did that before I became head of HR. So there's nothing you're going to tell me now about learning and development that I don't know. There's nothing you're going to tell me about HR operation that I don't know. You know, so I can then sit where I am and say, somebody's talking and say, okay, this is correct, this is not correct, all right? But if I had been narrowed to one focus and you put me there, when you say, let me go and check my books. Okay? So it's good for you as an employee. There's the other question, so what's your take on this? Okay? So there are some people that don't have the required skills for jobs, but are trainable. How do people in this category get good jobs? They will perform better after receiving the needed training. This is like we're looking for the land of El Dorado. You know that land? That's flowing with gold, milk, and honey. All right? The truth of the matter is that if wherever you start your career at entry level, it's likely that in today's organization you will have to go through some training. Most employers recognize that they have to train, you know. Even if for just one thing, for you to imbibe the culture of the organization, you must be trained. So it doesn't matter how much skills you've got, you have to get a sense of the... But if you've got no skills at all, I don't know how you're even going to get that far. And which is part of why we're here. And what Jimmy said earlier on about you getting certifications, you know, getting some skills and all that, and knowledge. You know, if you look at that word, knowledge, it's one old insight that I have. If you write that word out, knowledge, if you break it in the middle, one part says to know, right? Know. The other side says edge. All right? So my interpretation is that knowledge means knowing gives you an edge. So you need to know. And I say this and I laugh about it. I tell my colleagues, I say the difference between me and you, who is probably an ET, is that I know something that you don't know. As soon as you know as much as I do, we're all equal. Think about it. When you're a little baby, your mom can say anything and you just say, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. Run here, you run. Sit there, you sit. And you become an adult. You've known, you've learned everything that mommy and daddy already know. So there's nothing more. I mean, there are certain things they still know better than you, but as the Bible says, your eyes have become open. So when you know, you have the edge to compete. Knowledge is power. Right? So please, I don't believe that someone can say that I don't have any skills. Maybe not the exact skills for the job. For instance, you cannot go and become a medical doctor without having gone through medical training. So there are specialized skills. There are also some open skills that you can adjust. But the important thing is that wherever you want to go, try and find out about that place and learn. Do you have no more questions? No more questions.
We don't have any more questions. So at the moment, is there anybody that has a question you'd just like to signify? Anybody? All right. Just want to share some, because people ask me these questions a lot. Right now, I think generally in most industries, promotions have slowed down. Yep. True or false? All right, yeah. So, how many of you want a promotion? Anybody? God is watching you. Huh? Oh, great. So why didn't you ask me a question about that? So these are kind of questions that, because again, this is about you, all right? All right, so I want to share a quick strategy for promotion. Now, the reality about it is that a lot of promotion was tenure-based. Am I right? Okay, so you spend 3 years at the level and then you consider you. A lot of that has changed because it's now a supplier's market. So we have a lot more people willing to take your position. Are we together? That's changed. Now, I'm going to share one with you. There are others, but I think this one will probably apply. The fact is, move from a tenure-based structure to a value-based structure. Value-based, all right? And so it means that if you want to get promotion right now, you must give them a reason to promote you. Now, the first thing to say is that doing your job is not the reason to be promoted. When you do your job at the best, you are required or you are qualified to earn a salary. Because when they hired you, they said, if you do this job at 100%, we'll give 100% of this money. Am I right? So that's it. So promotion is recognition of performance above a level than they expected you to perform at, all right? So you must be able to get what they call quantifiable value. Because that's the other thing that's there. I was there, I closed at 10 o'clock. How do you quantify that? Because you could have been on Facebook till 10 o'clock. Am I right? So I'll give you a personal example, right? Now, again, there are seasons in industries. So there's a season in banking where there was a lot of favor and things were going on. 2005, post-consolidation. Between 2005 and 2009, many banking miracles happened, right? That's how I became a senior manager, you know, at the short time. Because that was an opportunity at that point in time. But, I mean, I was a manager, and then I saw the executive compensation package, which started at senior manager level. It's people like Napoleon that develop things like that, okay? And so it looked attractive to me, and now at that time, I'd done some projects. I'm a certified job evaluator. I'm with the Hay Group of South Africa, and I'd done some projects in terms of job analysis, job evaluation, and some other areas. And I actually could show that I'd saved the bank about $3 million if they had brought Hay Group to do all the work. Right, I've done that by myself, okay? So I remember that, and I now took that to my boss, and I said to him, sir, I would like to be promoted to senior manager. And he chased me out of his office. True, right? Said my mouth is now big, okay? But I realized also that the number of people that were senior were giving me their work to do. That's one of the ways to let you know that you're actually more qualified than where you are. When senior people are giving you their work to do. So what did I do? Thankfully, like I said, there are things for different seasons. So 2 banks began to call me. So I took that. Again, there's a strategy called trading letters. I'm teaching you about this now, but they'll be good for you. Are you out? Don't mind? You guys don't. No, I can't. I don't want to corrupt you. I should corrupt you. There's a strategy called trading letters, all right? So what you do essentially is that you have to threaten your boss. Because some bosses don't see your value until you show them. That's the truth about it. I'm telling you, all right? So when you tell them now, it depends on now, please be ready for some things. There's some organizations or industries that when you do that, they will give you what you want, but the price or the cost for you later to pay you. All right? So you have to be able to understand the industry. So essentially, that worked and all that. I was able to quantify the value to say that it was about $3 million, right? I had two banks that were interested in hiring me and all that. And then I got a commitment to be promoted to the next level, all right? But I understood that, and now, I was in the HR department, and you guys are HR, so you see what happens. You see one star guy, you don't want to let it go. And he just says, until you double my salary, and they double it. Yes. So my question is, why did they double it? Because they know the value. So until you are able to demonstrate that value, then you're not going to be promoted. I've been in promotion meetings. You know how they do sometimes? Who is going to be promoted? You have done appraisals, you have done everything, all right? So this guy is a great guy. I'm telling you, great guy has given people great pay. I'm telling you. Now, because again, there's going to be the subjective part. Now, there is the, right way to do it. They will do that, HR will do that bit. You will submit the list. There are people that, based on appraisals, they're going to be promoted, that will be dropped. I hope I'm not being too practical.
No.
Okay, so you want to make sure now. The other thing which must accompany it and everything here is to have an informal advocate who can speak for you at ESCO level. Most people don't have somebody at that level. And let me teach you one strategy. I hope you don't mind of getting an informal advocate. Go to the person and say, I want you to be my mentor. I'm telling you. Yes. Most people outside the bank, nobody knows them. So when someone in the bank once sees that they are great, they feel like, wow, I have something to offer this world. I'm serious. And you go to them and go under their mentorship program. Are we together? Now again, don't just do it selfishly. Are we together? Alright? So you have to be careful. Find people that are aligned with your values, am I right? People that can support you, that have knowledge and all that, and approach them and get to talk to them, support them and help them. On their daughter's birthday, be there and buy a gift for the daughter. I'm getting too practical. I have to stop now, am I right? I'm serious. These are the things you see. There's no textbook. They already will not teach you that. All right? So that's the thing that is there. But these are the realities in the world that we live in and all that. So you must develop that personal network, all right? Have an informal advocate. I've seen people saved. Their promotion saved by someone says, no, that person we need to promote. I mean, somebody that was a director in the bank that actually spoke up for me and said, this guy, I can defend anything. So you need an informal advocate at ESCO level or at the senior executive level. The last one is what I call demonstrated ownership, all right? You must show to the company that this is our company. That's what I'm saying. Some people are one leg in, one leg out there, expect them to promote you. They sense these things. They ask you to do extra, which is said, sacrifice, am I right? Yes. And you're the first one to say, no, this is not in my job description. This is not what you paid me for. Am I right? Yes. That doesn't show any sense of ownership. So basically, ownership means that I'm in the HR department, I went to an event and I saw a minister, I got his card, and I came to corporate banking or whatever, or to public sector, and I gave them and said, look, follow up this guy, I will follow you to that meeting. Yes. It's not your department, but but you're actually bringing in business. The more you do that, that corporate banking guy or public sector guy will speak for you when it's time for promotion. With these few words of mine. I'm just joking, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Napoleon. Thank you, Jimi. We'll then invite a fellow of the Institute, Mr. Patrick Amechi, to come and give a vote of thanks and also give them the pledge.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patrick Amechi. I'm a member of the Board of Fellows of the Chartered Institute, and I'm particularly happy to be here because we're talking about young professionals developing their careers. And a lot of what has been said here really was like rewriting my story. I became a manager at 34 in one of the top oil companies in Nigeria. I'm not a professor. I've written no book in human resource management. But what I had in abundance was self-development, challenging myself continuously. And I grew up saying to every young person I met that you must be an active participant in your career development. No matter what programs and plans your company lays out for career development, what HR does, it's you that have got to show that first, you want to go up there and be prepared. I heard so much about sacrificing, self-development, dedication. You can't sit down and these things happen. You work for it. You know, when you really, again, because of yesterday, today, identifying what your real deep down interest is, what you do. First of all, naturally. I was proud to say that it's easier to build on your strength than waste resources remediating your deficiencies. So identify what to do your strengths are, so strengths and weaknesses too, and work on them. I'm only 70, and I'm very confident. I'm only 70, and I'm still here. Because in all my working life, I've worked with young people like you. Because I was given a hand when I was young, so I'm also I have extended that hand. I have lots of extremely successful top executives today whom I've mentored. Because I believe in giving back what you have received. When you receive, don't just pocket joy. Give back even more than you received. It's a pleasure to hear my young friends, all of you, still going ahead with this very important. My pleasure. On behalf of the President and Chairman of Council of the Chartered Institute, the Governing Council, and on your behalf, present to them, please. Please don't give up. It's a struggle, but you must struggle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I heard him say correctly, self-development. Read and read and read across the board. You must understand the business where you work. If you work in an engineering company, you don't have to be an engineer. My first degree was in philosophy, second was in sociology. But once I got into an oil company, I spent time, my own time, reading the basics of geology, basics of drilling, and I started in financial development. I would go to drillers, stay 2 weeks, and write up the job description of a driller. I go to production. By the time I sit with any line manager, I'm not in that operation, but I know the logic, I know the basics. So he listens to me, he understands me, I understand him. He has a problem, he calls me, because there was a confidence. I became one of the very earliest human resource people to sit on the board of directors of any company in Nigeria. Because I played with the line managers who have the responsibility. You aid them, you help them, but theirs is the responsibility to develop their people. But you guide them, give them the template, and all the support. So it's important that you make effort to understand the basics of the business you are into. That way you are relevant, that way you are credible, that way they are called looking for you. One of the finest moments I had in my career was when I said to my managing director, "Sir, I can't do that, rather I resign." He got up, came around, put his down and said, "I will resign with you." Because it was a tough position. We had a zero coverage in MPC. And they wanted us to do anything. He said, "No, you can do that in MPC, not in this company." And they threatened, whatever. I said, "My MD, you do it, I quit." He said, "No, I quit with you." Together, we sat together and had our own MPC. But you have to be strong and there. You're only there when you stand on solid ground.
Yes, sir.
When you're solid ground, don't fight shy.
Yes.
Thank you once again. Thank you, delegates, for your time. Thank you, Jimmy and Napoleon, for the insightful section. Thank you.